Attention passionate Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the AFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Pittsburgh Steelers' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Pittsburgh Steelers fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your friends and Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Let's get to the news. Now, folks, if you've been paying attention to the NFL landscape lately, you know that the AFC North has been one of the most fiercely contested divisions in recent seasons. It's a division that's known for its gritty, physical football and some of the most talented rosters in the league. And right now, there's a major development that could shake things up even further, a move that might seem small on paper, but has huge implications for the Steelers and their quest to get back to the Super Bowl. That move, my friends, is the recent release of Jaire Alexander by the Green Bay Packers. That's right, the Packers decided to part ways with their star cornerback, and now the NFL's eyes are turning toward Pittsburgh, wondering if the Steelers might be the perfect match for Alexander. Jaire Alexander, for those of you who follow the league closely, is a player who's been considered one of the best in the NFL when healthy. A two-time All-Pro and two-time Pro Bowler, Alexander has made a name for himself as a shutdown corner, capable of locking down top receivers and making game-changing plays. Since being drafted in 2018, he has consistently shown flashes of brilliance, with 12 career interceptions and a reputation for being one of the most sticky cover guys in the league. But as with many players in today's NFL, injuries have taken a toll. Over the last 2 seasons, Alexander has missed a total of 14 games, which is a significant chunk of playing time. It's that injury history that likely played a role in the Packers' decision to release him now, rather than trying to work out a new deal. The Packers, in recent years, have been in a bit of a rebuild mode, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They've been trying to find that perfect mix of youth and experience, and sometimes, tough choices have to be made. The fact that Alexander was offered a deal with heavy incentives to stay in Green Bay and potentially become a free agent in 2026 shows that they valued his talent, but also recognized the risk associated with his injury history. Still, Alexander chose to hit the open market and test his value, which opens up a lot of possibilities for teams looking to bolster their secondary. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for Steelers fans. Steelers' secondary has been a point of focus all offseason. They've made some solid additions, especially in the draft and free agency, but there's always room for more talent, with players like Joey Porter Jr. developing nicely and Darius Slay still being a reliable presence. The Steelers have a solid core, but adding someone like Alexander could take that unit to a new level. Imagine a secondary with Porter, Slay, and Alexander all on the field, a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. The Steelers have been known for their aggressive, physical defense, and bringing in someone with Alexander's ball skills and coverage ability would fit perfectly into that identity. Of course, there's a bit of a question mark due to the fit. Alexander has mostly played outside corner, and he's rarely been used in the slot, unlike some other top corners. The Steelers' coaching staff will have to decide how best to incorporate him into their scheme, especially since Porter Jr. has shown promise at outside corner, and Slay remains a key veteran presence. But if the Steelers are serious about competing at the highest level, adding a player of Alexander's caliber makes sense. His talent is undeniable, and even with his injury concerns, a one-year deal or a prove-it contract could work for both sides. It's all about the value. Pittsburgh has always been smart with contracts and player development, and they could see Alexander as a low-risk, high-reward addition. But what about the division rival aspect? Well, the AFC North has been a battleground with teams like Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Cleveland all vying for supremacy. The Steelers have been close, especially with their strong defense and emerging offense under quarterback Kenny Pickett. If they can add a player like Alexander, it could give them that extra edge needed to dominate in the division. Remember, the Steelers have a storied history of building tough, disciplined defenses, and adding a player of Alexander's caliber could be the piece that pushes them over the top. It's not just about filling a roster spot. It's about making a statement to the rest of the league that the Steelers are serious about winning now and in the future. Now, let's talk a little more about the implications of this move for the AFC North overall. If Alexander joins the Steelers, it could have ripple effects across the division. The Ravens have been building a strong secondary of their own, and Cincinnati's defense has been on the rise. Cleveland is always in the mix, especially with their aggressive style and talented roster. But Pittsburgh, with Alexander, could become the toughest defensive unit in the division. That's a scary thought for any quarterback going into Heinz Field, especially in the cold, tough Pittsburgh weather. Opposing offenses would have a hard time moving the ball with that secondary, and it could turn Heinz Field into an even more daunting fortress. And don't forget, the Steelers have a history of making smart moves in free agency. They've been patient, built through the draft, and now they're looking to add those final pieces that can push them from playoff contenders to Super Bowl champions. The addition of Alexander, if it happens, would be a statement move. It would signal that Pittsburgh is serious about competing at the highest level, no matter what the other divisions are doing. Plus, considering Alexander's past connection with Aaron Rodgers, who spent years in Green Bay before moving to the Jets, there's a little extra storyline there. Rodgers and Alexander have crossed paths before, and that familiarity could help smooth the transition if the Steelers decide to pursue him aggressively. Now, let's look a bit more into the current state of the Steelers' roster. Kenny Pickett has shown flashes of brilliance as the franchise quarterback, and the team has invested heavily in building around him. The offensive line has improved, and the weapons at receiver are promising, with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson leading the charge. But the defense remains the backbone of the team, and that's where the real strength lies. The Steelers' defense, under coordinator Brian Flores, has been aggressive, creative, and disruptive. Adding a player like Alexander would only amplify that identity. And let's not forget the importance of leadership in that locker room. Alexander, as a seasoned veteran and proven playmaker, would bring not just talent, but also valuable experience and leadership. For the young corners and safeties, having a guy like him in the room to mentor and push them could be a game changer. The Steelers' culture has always emphasized toughness, resilience, and smart football, and Alexander embodies all of those qualities. On the flip side, it's worth noting that the NFL is a business, and teams are always weighing risk versus reward. His injury history might scare some teams off, and a one-year deal might be the most realistic scenario. But with the Steelers' salary cap flexibility and their history of smart signings, they could definitely make it happen if they see the potential fit. It's also worth mentioning that the Steelers have a strong medical and training staff who could help manage his injury risk, and the coaching staff's defensive schemes could be tailored to maximize his strengths while minimizing wear and tear. So, what does this all mean for the upcoming season? Well, if the Steelers land Alexander, it's not just about filling a roster spot, it's about elevating the entire defense. And in today's NFL, where passing games are more explosive than ever, having a lockdown corner like Alexander could be the difference between a deep playoff run and an early exit. It's about creating mismatches, forcing turnovers, and making life miserable for quarterbacks. The Steelers have always prided themselves on their defense, and this move could be the final piece to put them over the top. Of course, nothing is guaranteed in the NFL, and there are always questions. Will Alexander be willing to come to Pittsburgh? Can the Steelers fit his contract into their cap space without sacrificing other key players? Will he be willing to accept a one-year deal? These are all hurdles, but the potential rewards are enormous. If everything lines up, the Steelers could be adding a game-changer just as they look to contend for another Super Bowl. And with the AFC North as competitive as ever, every edge counts. So, Steelers fans, the anticipation is real. We're watching closely to see if this move materializes, and if it does, it could be a turning point for the franchise. The Steelers have a solid foundation, a talented team, and a passionate fan base that's hungry for success. Bringing in a player like Jaire Alexander would send a clear message. Pittsburgh is back in the game, ready to contend and chase another Lombardi trophy. Imagine, just for a second, that intimidating secondary with Alexander patrolling the outside, creating chaos for opposing offenses. That's the kind of vision we all want for this team, and it's not out of reach. And now, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Do you think Alexander would be a perfect fit? Would you be excited to see him in black and gold? Or do you think the team should focus on other areas in free agency or the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Pittsburgh Steelers news. We're in this journey together, and the best is yet to come. Thanks for watching, and as always, let's go Steelers!